Hi friends, so I have something a little bit different for you today, and what we're looking at are not brick built sets. Instead, these are magnetic puzzle toys that are made of plastic, yes, but they come apart and they are puzzles. And we're looking at two different sets here. The first row are animal savanna set, and they come together as a set of four. And the back row are dinosaurs that come together as a set of four. And the reason that I wanted to share these with you is because of the beautiful sculpts and the colors and the play experience that each of these has. All right, so let's jump in and I'll explain what I mean. The one that caught my eye first was this elephant. It is this beautiful kind of light blue and a matte finish in it. But what they've done is that, look, if you notice, you can see straight through his eye and you see this white tusk piece, right? Okay, so here's the magic. You pull it apart and it's magnetically held together. And on the inside, you've got the skeletal structure for this elephant. Look at that. And the tusk shows through. The eye is realistic or stylized, of course, to what an elephant's skeletal structure might look like inside. And each of these parts comes apart as well. So that's the puzzle part of it. So you can take all of these parts apart and then put them back together. And it's slightly flexible plastic. But again, this is a white plastic that is the same kind of matte finish. Really nice molding, really nicely done. And it's pretty thick plastic. It doesn't feel cheap in any way. And so once you get it back in there and you take his other half and you put him on there, it has that satisfying click because it's magnetic. So there are hidden magnets in there that line it up and click it right in place. And so this one, of all 8 of these, probably my favorite. Just the color, this dusty blue, just so cool. And then of course, let's take a look at some of these others, right? We've got this lion with this beautiful mane. And this is an unusual one because it actually has 3 parts to it. The mane comes off separate. So now it's a little bit less like a lion. Maybe this is a female lion. And then you can take apart, and on the inside, look at that skeleton. Just a beautiful skeleton. You can see straight through with the eye hole, and look at where the white bone shows through is in just the right places, which is namely the teeth and then the toes or claws. So that's brilliant. That's a great way of handling the what would you call it? That's a great way of handling the biological part of this, and it's educational too, because you're realizing, oh, okay, these things that I see exposed on the outside are actually part of the internal bone structure, which is fantastic. That's something you definitely want kids to learn, right? And then moving on, we can take a look at this buffalo. He's got a nice beefy build. And again, his horns are showing through, his feet are showing through, and then you pull his body apart and there's his skeletal structure. Super cool, really stylized version of what his skeleton might look like. Really nicely done. And you just love, I cannot do that enough times, just clicking those pieces together. Here's this, the world's friendliest, happiest crocodile, or maybe alligator. You pull that apart and you get a better look at his teeth, you get a better look at his feet, his bones, and his entire skeleton. Really nicely done. So those are those 4. And let's move on to the dinosaurs in the group. And notice they're a different color palette. They're more of a pastel color palette, but still really beautiful. And somebody made great decisions about these colors. The palette works with the others, and they're not too bright. They're not, they're just so complementary. So this one has a name. It's called Tricera. And so let's open up Tricera. I mean, just look at this stout body. Just incredible. These tiny little horns. So pulling Tricera apart, that's the internal structure for Tricera. And the sculpt And the choices they made are really wonderful. I think a lesser designer might have just said, oh, let's make sure the horns are super big, because it's a Triceratops. But they didn't. They're subdued, and they let the rest of the form speak for it. So terrific industrial design there. Big fan of Tricera. We've got this next one. Let me look up the name here. The name they gave it is Para. So this is Para. You can see his toes sticking through there, and open it up. There's the interior, and look at that, the skull and how it comes up into the pointed part of its head. That's terrific. And then of course the tail, bone structure into the tail. Really cool, really nicely done. And of course it clicks together. We'll look at one more. Look at this. This one, of course, is called Stego. So Stego is this beautiful matte, almost like a lemon color, and they've shaped him to almost look like a lemon also. And of course, look at these spikes that are coming out of his back, right? That makes this animal who it is, right? Like just incredible. And even these tiny ones that come from the tail, right? Amazing. I really, really dig it. And this tiny little eye, perfect, right? You could have done an eye just like the others, but no, they're like, you know what? This guy needs a tiny little eye, because that's typically what you see with these animals. And when I was growing up, they would say, oh, those animals had bad eyesight, and they made up for it by having amazing defenses. All right, so this guy needs no introduction. This is T-Rex. So he's got his big old maw with his teeth, big eyes, tiny little arms, right? And you can see his toes too. So let's open him up. There you go. There is T-Rex. So look at his big old feet, like he's got bell bottoms on or something. And his tiny little arms. I love that. And of course his head is this giant head with his giant jaws. Just wonderful. Really well done. And look at the sculpt on that. Just the lines and the decisions they made are terrific. So I know I'm raving a lot about the sculpt on these, but I do think it is unusual to see this much care put into toys for kids, because these are for kids. These are not adult collectibles, but you know what? If they sold these in a modern art museum, I think they would be bestsellers. I think they would totally do really well, because these are beautiful objects. These are beautiful renditions of these animals. They've done a terrific job with this. Whoever was the industrial designer on these deserves a lot of credit, because these are some of the most beautiful animals I've ever seen sculpted out of plastic. They did a terrific job. And they're available on Amazon. I have a link to them in the description. So if you feel inclined to buy them, go for it. It costs you nothing extra, but if you use my link, I will get a tiny percentage. They also come with these postcards. They're more like info stat cards. So Tricera, T-Rex, Stego, Para. On the back side are instructions for each. Although you don't really need instructions, you can figure it out without. Most kids won't need the instructions. And then for the safari animals, here's the ones for elephant. Oh, gnu. I kept calling it a buffalo. Sorry. Lion, crocodile. Look at that guy. And of course instructions for each of those on the back. And so you get a sense for the box. It's a very giftable box. So here's the box for the Savannah Friends. Nice little box. And for the dinos, here's what the dinos look like. So it's a nice giftable box as well for each of those. Let's zoom back in. Don't need to see the mess in the room. All right, so but that is a look at that. I hope you found that interesting. And if you buy them, let me know what you think. I think these are some of the coolest little animals I've seen in a long time, made out of plastic. All right, cool. If you like this video, hit like. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. That means the world to me and lets me keep making these videos. All right, thank you so much.